I think, you know what, I agree with this, and I think everybody does it in different manner. I can tell you, like, I woke up this morning and, like, maybe all of us or many of us, I grabbed my phone, I looked over to see what kind of messages came in overnight.
Yep.
And I had one that's like going to cause me some difficulty, and I've got to come up with a solution, and I've got to kind of power through a bit of adversity. And as I was like, oh, and then we're recording a little early today. So I was like, okay, I can't think about this. I got to jump into this.
Yeah.
And then I found myself thinking, okay, when I'm done with the show here, I'm going to grab, I need to just detox from this for a few minutes. And I'm going to grab a book. And for me, reading something not related to whatever it is I'm working on is another way to allow my brain to kind of percolate in the background and come up with ideas and solutions. So it's almost like you have to have this parallel for me, a parallel activity, whether it's focusing on driving, sitting in a duck blind, or reading a book. I love to read biographies of, famous business people, Henry Ford,
sure,
Andrew Carnegie, that kind of stuff, because I can think while I read. You can kind of, I'll sit there, yeah, and then all of a sudden something, oh, okay, this is how to handle it, and it's kind of it's interesting that you bring this up, because I think I do it all the time, but I'm just not aware of it.
It's not intentional. Yeah. And that's why I sort of pushed back a little bit on the word meditation, because yes, all of these things are meditative in their own ways. To me, meditation is an act of intention. It is an activity, even though it might appear as though you're doing nothing. In fact, when I meditate, I am very intentionally focused on thinking about nothing. And that's much more difficult for me than it sounds. If you've never meditated before, I'll share a very simple way to get started, or just a simple way, even if you don't want to get started, to understand what happens with meditation. So I often still to this day do the first thing I learned, which is breath counting meditation. And I will breathe in and out, and that's 1, and in and out, and 2, and I will do that up to 4, and then I go back to 1. And the reason they tell you to not just keep going above that is you'll start to get distracted by the competition of, oh, how many breaths can I do? And now, instead of focusing only on your breath, you're now focusing on the number, which is not the intention of this. And the idea is to not let thoughts get in your way. They will, right? They absolutely will. It's how our brains work. You're going to be doing your breath counting, and then suddenly I'm thinking about, that text I got this morning that's going to cause me problems. And the idea is to not engage with the thoughts, is to just notice the thought, accept that the thought happened, and let it go. And if you do this long enough, it's good practice, because that's what a meditation practice is. But you're teaching your brain how to not get distracted as much by things and just letting things go. But eventually, your brain will stop presenting you with, it will have played all of its cards, right? It's like, oh, I want to show you this and distract you with this and this and this and this. And finally, it's like it runs out of things, and so it just calms down. And those moments where I call them true moments of clear thought, that's like blissful. Rarely do I get those anywhere other than the flotation tank, because the idea behind the flotation tank, they're called, the misnomer for them is sensory deprivation tanks. You are not deprived of your senses. Your body still works perfectly fine the entire time you're in the tank. There's nothing wrong with you. You are deprived of sensory input in the tank. That's the point. So that really the only thing that can distract you are your own thoughts. And once that's done, you're not hearing things or seeing things in the outside world that might then also be distractions. That's the idea. That was why the tank was created initially. And so getting to that point, and it usually takes me 30 or 40 minutes to get to that point where I have, like, my brain has stopped showing me things. And then I get that clear thought. But then when things come back online, that drive home from the tank, is filled with ideas. It's really quite something.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So
I have never done that. I have to try that.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.